The son of Grammy-nominated opera singer Jubilant Sykes has been charged with murdering his father. Investigators say 31-year-old Micah Sykes killed his father in the family's Santa Monica home on Monday night. And this afternoon, he faced a judge. Eyewitness News reporter Ashley Mackey live in downtown L.A. with the latest on this case. Ashley?
Michelle, new tonight, 31-year-old Micah Sykes made his first court appearance today since his arrest. Sykes, accused of murdering his father, made a few outbursts in court today, but ultimately waived his right to a speedy arraignment, asking to push it to February. Police say Micah Sykes was taken into custody without incident after his father, 71-year-old renowned opera singer Jubilant Sykes, was found stabbed to death in his Santa Monica home Monday evening. When police
December the 9th, 9:20 p.m. A frantic 911 call breaks the silence of a quiet Santa Monica neighborhood. Police cars race down Delaware Avenue. Officers jump out and run toward a home where a woman stands frozen at the front door. Her face tells them everything. Something terrible has happened inside. They rush in and find him, a 71-year-old man lying on the floor, blood everywhere. Stab wounds cover his body. Paramedics try desperately to save him. But it's too late. He's gone. This wasn't just any man. This was Jubilant Sykes, a Grammy-nominated opera singer who performed at the world's most famous stages. His voice had moved thousands of people to tears. But here's the twist that makes this case so disturbing. The killer didn't run. He's still in the house. And when police find him, they can't believe who it is. It's Jubilant's own son. Before we uncover this heartbreaking story, if you're a true crime fan, hit that subscribe button. We go deep into cases others won't touch. Now let's get into it. What could possibly drive a son to kill the father who gave him life? Stay with me, because the answer is more complicated than you think. To understand the tragedy of what happened that night, you need to know who Jubilant Sykes really was. Jubilant was born in Los Angeles in 1954. He grew up as a regular city kid, but there was something special about him from the start. As a child, he sang soprano. His voice was so pure and beautiful that people stopped to listen. But here's the interesting part. Jubilant never planned to become an opera singer. In fact, he had no dreams of it at all. That all changed when he went to California State Fullerton for college. At Cal State Fullerton, Jubilant met teachers who believed in him. He later said they poured their lives into him. They saw his talent and pushed him to reach heights he never thought possible. He had everything he needed right there on campus to prepare for an incredible career. And what a career it became. Jubilant's voice transformed as he grew older. He became a baritone, and his deep, powerful voice took him to stages around the world. We're talking about the biggest, most respected venues you can imagine. He performed at the Metropolitan Opera in New York. He sang at Carnegie Hall. He traveled to Germany to perform at the Deutsche Oper Berlin. He graced the stage at the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C. He performed at the Apollo Theater and the Hollywood Bowl. He even sang at London's Barbican Center. In 2010, Jubilant received one of the highest honors a musician can get, a Grammy nomination. He was nominated for Best Classical Album for his performance in Leonard Bernstein's Mass, where he played the celebrant role. This wasn't his first time performing this demanding part. 5 years earlier, in 2005, the Guardian newspaper praised his performance, calling it a spectacular performance of a demanding role. But what made Jubilant truly special wasn't just his technical skill. It was his ability to sing anything and everything. He didn't limit himself to just opera. He sang gospel music. He sang jazz. He even sang pop. He moved between genres like it was the most natural thing in the world. In a 2002 interview with NPR, Jubilant explained his approach to music. He said, "My singing is like breathing. It's an extension of me. I don't think of it as extraordinary. It's my passion." That's who Jubilant was. Music wasn't just his job. It was part of his soul. People who knew him personally described him as more than just a talented singer. They called him an amazing person and a light in the community. Despite all his fame and success, despite performing for presidents and royalty, Jubilant never forgot where he came from. He stayed in Santa Monica, the community he loved. He remained devoted to the people around him. He didn't let fame change who he was at his core. At 71 years old, Jubilant was still active. He was still performing. He was still inspiring young singers. He had so much more to give to the world. Friends and neighbors said his presence made their lives brighter. When he walked into a room, people felt it. His energy, his warmth, his genuine care for others. These things made him unforgettable. This was the man who died on that December night. A father, a husband, an artist, a friend. A man whose voice had touched thousands of lives across the globe. And the person accused of taking his life was the son he had raised and loved. While Jubilant's professional life was filled with applause and success, his private life told a different story. Jubilant was married, and he and his wife lived together in a quiet Santa Monica neighborhood on the 1700 block of Delaware Avenue. From the outside, everything looked peaceful. Nice homes, tree-lined streets, the kind of place where nothing bad ever seems to happen. But inside the Sykes home, the family was dealing with something most neighbors knew nothing about. Their son, Micah Sykes, was 31 years old. And Micah was struggling with schizophrenia. If you're not familiar with schizophrenia, let me explain it simply. It's a serious brain disorder that affects about 1% of people. When someone has schizophrenia, their brain doesn't process reality the same way most people do. They might hear voices that aren't really there. These are called hallucinations. They might believe things that aren't true, like thinking people are out to get them. These false beliefs are called delusions. Their thoughts can become jumbled and confused, making it hard to think clearly or make decisions. Schizophrenia usually shows up when people are in their late teens or 20s. For Micah, this illness had already taken hold. Now here's where things get really difficult. Micah was supposed to be taking medication to help control his symptoms. But according to prosecutors, he either wasn't taking his medication properly or he wasn't taking enough of it. This is actually a huge problem with schizophrenia. Many people stop taking their medication because the side effects can be really uncomfortable. Or sometimes the illness itself makes them believe they don't need the medication at all. But there was another layer to Micah's situation that made everything worse. Micah was homeless. Think about that for a moment. A 31-year-old man with a serious illness, living on the streets, with nowhere to go except back to his parents' house. Jubilant and his wife were trying to care for their adult son, while he battled an illness they couldn't fully control. They were carrying a weight that most people can't even begin to understand. This is the reality for so many families dealing with severe illness. They become caregivers without any training. They watch someone they love suffer, and they feel helpless to fix it. The Sykes family was trying to hold everything together. They were doing their best. And through it all, they never gave up on Micah. They kept their door open. They kept loving him. But love, as we'll see, isn't always enough to prevent tragedy. The stress was building. The situation was getting more and more difficult to manage. And on that December night, something finally broke. Monday, December 9th, a date the Sykes family will never forget. At 9:20 p.m., a 911 call came in. The dispatcher heard panic in the caller's voice. Assault in progress, they reported. The address, 1700 block of Delaware Avenue in Santa Monica. Police officers immediately jumped into their cars and raced toward the scene, lights flashing, sirens blaring. They had no idea what they were about to walk into. When they arrived at the house, they found Jubilant's wife standing at the front door. Her face said everything. Pure terror. The kind of fear that freezes you in place. The officers rushed past her and entered the home. What they found inside was horrific. Jubilant Sykes was on the floor. He had multiple stab wounds across his body. Blood was everywhere. He was still alive, but barely. His injuries were critical. The officers called for paramedics immediately. Within minutes, emergency medical teams arrived. They worked frantically, trying to save his life. They did everything they could, but it was too late. Jubilant Sykes was pronounced dead at the scene. The voice that had filled concert halls around the world was silenced forever. At 71 years old, his life ended in his own home, in the place where he should have felt safest. Police searched the area and found the weapon used in the attack. They recovered it as evidence. Then came the moment that shocked everyone. Micah was still inside the house. He hadn't run. He hadn't tried to escape. He was just there. When officers found him, he didn't fight back. He didn't resist. Police took him into custody without incident. But what does that really mean? Was he in shock? Was he confused about what had just happened? Was he experiencing a psychotic episode where he didn't fully understand reality? We may never know exactly what was going through his mind in those moments. Now here's the detail that makes this case even more heartbreaking. Jubilant's wife didn't just discover the scene after it happened. She witnessed the entire attack. She saw her son stab her husband. She watched the man she loved die right in front of her eyes. Think about that for a second. Think about being that mother. You're watching your own son, the child you brought into this world, kill your husband, the father of that child. It's unthinkable. Drop a comment below. How do you think you'd even begin to process something like that? What would you do? In one terrible night, this family lost everything. A wife lost her husband, her partner, her companion, the man she built a life with. A son lost his father, the man who supported him, who never gave up on him, who kept his door open no matter what. And a mother lost her son, not to death, but to prison, to a system that would now take him away forever. Everyone loses. There are no winners in this story. The Santa Monica Police Department began their investigation immediately. They collected evidence. They interviewed witnesses. They tried to piece together exactly what happened and why. But even as they gathered facts, the bigger questions remained. Questions that don't have easy answers. Questions that would haunt everyone involved for years to come. 3 days later, on Thursday, December 12th, Micah Sykes appeared in a downtown Los Angeles courtroom. Judge Teresa R. McGonigal was presiding over the case. The courtroom was tense. Everyone knew this wasn't going to be a simple hearing. Micah stood before the judge, formally charged with murder. The charge was clear. He was accused of killing his own father. Deputy District Attorney Cesar Rodriguez presented the case to the judge. He laid out the facts as prosecutors understood them. Then came a key revelation that made everyone in the courtroom pause. Rodriguez told the judge that Micah's mother had witnessed the stabbing. She saw everything. She was there when it happened. Rodriguez also explained the concerns that made this case so complicated. Micah had been diagnosed with schizophrenia. He was supposed to be taking medication to manage his condition, but he either wasn't taking enough of it or he wasn't following his doctor's instructions at all. On top of that, Micah was homeless. He had nowhere else to stay except his parents' home. This created a dangerous situation that his parents couldn't escape from. The prosecution asked the judge to hold Micah without bail. Judge McGonigal agreed. Micah would remain in custody with no option to post bail and be released. The judge also issued a protective order. This order stated that Micah was not allowed to contact his mother. Think about how painful that must be. The woman who gave him life, who raised him, who never stopped loving him. Now she needs legal protection from him. Then something unexpected happened in the courtroom. Micah interrupted the prosecutor. He spoke up and said, "I don't see my mother here. This person's not telling the truth whatsoever." What did this outburst mean? Was he in denial about what happened? Was he experiencing paranoia, thinking people were lying about him? Was he having delusions that distorted his view of reality? It's hard to say for sure. But here's the part that really shows how complicated this situation is. Other family members were in the courtroom that day. They asked Rodriguez to pass along a message to Micah. They wanted him to know that they still love him. Even after everything that happened, the family's love hadn't disappeared. The arraignment, the formal reading of charges, was delayed until February 11th. This gave the defense time to prepare and possibly evaluate Micah's condition. This case raises a difficult legal question. How do you prosecute someone whose own mind betrayed them? Where is the line between criminal responsibility and illness? Here's the uncomfortable truth about this case. This wasn't just about one violent act. This was about a broken system that failed an entire family. Let's talk more about schizophrenia so you can understand what Micah was dealing with. This illness typically shows up when people are between 18 and 30 years old. Micah was 31, which means he'd likely been battling this for years. The symptoms are serious. People with schizophrenia often hear voices that aren't there. They might have conversations with people who don't exist. They develop false beliefs that feel completely real to them, like thinking the government is watching them or that people are plotting against them. This is called paranoia. Their thinking becomes jumbled and disorganized, making it hard to function in daily life. Now, there are medications that can help. They're called antipsychotics. But here's the problem. These medications come with brutal side effects. People taking them often gain a lot of weight. They feel constantly tired and sedated. Some develop tremors. Their hands shake uncontrollably. Others experience restlessness where they can't sit still. These side effects are so uncomfortable that many people stop taking their medication. But there's another reason people stop taking their meds. It's called anosognosia. This is when the illness itself prevents someone from understanding they're sick. Their brain literally can't recognize that something is wrong. So they think, why am I taking these pills that make me feel terrible when there's nothing wrong with me? This is exactly what happened with Micah. He wasn't taking his medication properly, and his condition got worse. Now let's talk about the homelessness part, because it's connected. Did you know that 1 in 4 homeless people has a severe form of illness like schizophrenia? Here's how the cycle works. Someone develops a condition like schizophrenia. The symptoms make it impossible to hold down a job. Without a job, they can't afford housing. Once they're homeless, their symptoms get even worse because they're living in constant stress with no stability. And without a stable place to live, they can't get consistent treatment. It's a trap that's almost impossible to escape. Micah had only his parents' home to go to. They were his only safety net. Without them, he would have been completely on the streets. But here's where the system really failed. Jubilant and his wife became caregivers for their adult son. They had no professional training. They had limited resources. They had no real support. And here's the worst part. In most places, you can't force someone to get treatment unless they're in immediate danger to themselves or others. But by the time someone becomes an immediate danger, it's often too late. The Sykes family was stuck. They couldn't force Micah to take his medication. They couldn't force him into treatment. All they could do was try their best and hope nothing terrible happened. So here's the question nobody wants to ask. Could this have been prevented? The honest answer is yes, but it would require massive changes to how we handle cases like this. Changes that we'll talk about next. The good news is this: tragedies like this don't have to keep happening. There are real solutions that work. We just need to use them. Solution 1. Assisted outpatient treatment, or AOT, This is a program where a court can require someone to stay in treatment if they have a history of not taking their medication. It's not about locking people up. It's about making sure they get the help they need before something terrible happens. This program exists in many states, including California. We just need to use it more. Solution 2. Supportive housing programs. These programs combine stable housing with care services. Instead of just giving someone a place to live, they also provide therapy, medication management, and support. California has something called full-service partnerships that do exactly this. When people have both a safe place to live and access to treatment, their chances of recovery go way up. Solution 3. Family education and support. There's an organization called NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness. They offer free programs that teach families how to handle these situations. They teach you how to spot early trouble, how to calm down tense situations, and how to get through the complicated system. Families shouldn't have to figure this out alone. Solution 4. Crisis intervention teams. These are police officers who get special training to handle calls involving people in crisis. Instead of treating every situation like a crime, these officers know how to de-escalate and connect people to services. More police departments need teams like this. Solution 5. Safety planning for families. Families living with someone who has severe illness need emergency plans. They need to know the early trouble signals. They need to have important phone numbers ready. They need to know when it's time to call for help. Having a plan can save lives. Solution 6. Policy changes. We need more funding for community care. We need more hospital beds for people in crisis. We need laws that allow earlier intervention before someone becomes dangerous. California recently started something called Care Court. This program is designed to make it easier for families to get their loved ones into treatment. It's a step in the right direction. If you or someone you know needs help right now, here are some numbers to call. 988 is the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. You can call or text this number anytime for immediate help. 1-800-950-NAMI is the NAMI helpline. They can guide you to resources and support. 211 connects you to local resources in your area, including housing, help, and care services. Here's the bottom line. Illness is treatable. Homelessness is solvable. Violence is preventable, but only if we actually take action and use the tools we have. Jubilant Sykes was so much more than this tragedy. His voice moved thousands of people. His passion for music inspired generations of singers. He was a mentor to young artists. He was a pillar of his community. He was a devoted father and husband who never gave up on the people he loved. The cruel irony is this: a man who gave so much to the world was taken by the person he loved most. This case reminds us that illness doesn't discriminate. It doesn't care if you're rich or poor, famous or unknown. It affects families from all backgrounds. No one is immune. Here's the uncomfortable truth: we failed this family. Our systems failed them. Our policies failed them. Our priorities failed them. But we can honor Jubilant's memory with action, not just grief. We can advocate for better funding for care. We can support families in crisis. We can demand better from the systems that are supposed to protect us. If this case moved you, please share this video. Awareness is the first step to change. And tell me in the comments, what state or country are you watching from? Is care accessible where you live? Let's start a conversation about how we can do better. Behind every true crime story are real people who deserved better. Jubilant Sykes deserved to grow old. He deserved to keep singing. He deserved to see his son heal and recover. He deserved more time. May his light continue to shine through the changes we make in his name. May his story push us to create a world where families get the help they need before it's too late. Rest in peace, Jubilant Sykes. Your voice will never be forgotten.